What's up, guys? This is Barn on 11970. Thanks for checking out this video. One of the things I love about my Facebook page is some of the posts that people make. Some of them are amazing, and some of them are just eye-openers, and some, just a little off the beaten path. But I like them nonetheless because people have the chance to express themselves without being attacked all the time. I like that. But one of the things I started noticing, and it's one of those epiphany, aha moment kind of things, where it's so easy to infiltrate a movement, a society, an idea, and turn it to their advantages. When I mean I mean the people that are really in control of everything, the people who finance all the stuff from the background. And a lot of this movement talks about inner peace. It talks about things like, oh, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And what that says for me, if you look at things, because I always say, look at things from another person's perspective, because beliefs and all those other things are all about perspective. It's about your particular angle of view can be different from somebody else's. But when you think about it from an enemy's standpoint, if you want to control the masses, but not make it too obvious, you can get them to steer in a certain direction. And it makes them not focus on you anymore. In other words, the whole magic trick of, look over here while we do something over here. And the whole meant to be thing, the turn the other cheek, a lot of the religious aspects that they train you into believing, because belief is nothing more than your opinion and hoping you're right, because belief isn't truth. There's a difference. But if you look at it from an enemy standpoint, if they really want to keep people away from focusing on them and focusing on other areas like themselves, it's very easy to make people think, well, if something's meant to be, it'll happen. In other words, what they're saying is, sit around, do whatever you want, don't pay attention to it, and if it's supposed to happen, it's just going to magically appear before you. Instead of teaching you that, well, if you want something, work hard, achieve it, and do your best to get it, instead of sitting on your couch holding your breath and saying, well, I believe, and if it's meant to be, it's going to be. That's a way to get people to be unmotivated, to rely on everything else, to stop giving yourself a look inside and saying, I have the power to do things, I have the power to make change. Because belief is irrelevant. Whether you believe what I'm saying or you don't believe what I'm saying, it's nothing more than your perspective. But I'm going to show you how much belief really doesn't mean anything. Let's say this is a glass full of, well, I was drinking almond milk. So let's just say it's a glass of almond milk. And I see, let's say you're married and you're just going to sit down and have a nice cold glass of almond milk. And your spouse, without you knowing, drops poison into this glass because they want to kill you. You don't see it. You're in another room, and you're in love with this person. They could do no wrong. And I, a next-door neighbor, just happened to, whatever reason, witness this event. And I see your spouse putting poison in your glass. The spouse leaves because they don't want to be at the scene of the crime, so they have an alibi. And you go into the kitchen about to have your nice cold glass of almond milk, or whatever you're drinking, it doesn't matter. And I knock on the door. You open the door and I say, listen, I just want to let you know, I know this may sound crazy, but I saw your spouse put something in your drink. You may want to check it. And you turn around, instead of saying, you know what? I thank you for seeing that. Let me see what it is. And I appreciate you looking out for me when you could have just looked the other way and not said anything. Instead of people saying that, they'll turn around and say, especially let's say that person is madly in love with their spouse, and that person can do no wrong. And they turn around and say to you, oh, well, who do you think you are? Why are you looking into my business? There's no way that person could do that. You're a liar. I don't believe you. Slams the door. Now, if that person, that spouse, did put poison in that person's drink, and that person did not listen to the warning, and did not believe it happened, even though the poison is in there, and they take that glass and they consume the liquid, did their belief change the fact that they're now about to die? So, this is what I want people to understand. This is the programming. This is the programming at the finest, because most people only look at things from their own perspective. They never look at it from another point of view or another angle. And that's only one dimension in a multi-dimensional universe. And especially when it comes to situations or events or stories, there are always two sides to every story. So why is it so many people are afraid or hated on for asking questions or having a different variant of what the story was as it was presented? That's why even when I talk about that airline and I talk about these Craigslist ads, I'm not saying these are what's going to happen or what has happened. I'm saying here's some alternate possibilities that you've not been presented. And so many people will either ignore it or they will say things like, oh, I hate you for it, or you're crazy, when all I'm doing is showing a different perspective so you have a choice. When there are people with agendas that only steer you in a certain direction, because that's what agendas are all about. You'll never see a video of mine saying, believe what I say, it's fact, take my word for it, don't do any research, I am right. You'll never see that. I've always said, do your own research, check into these things, don't be afraid to ask questions, don't live in fear. Actions always speak louder than words. But yet, you'll see, even in the truther movement, in these movements where people are trying to do good, so I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong purposely, but when they talk about the whole thing about, I see on Facebook all the time, oh, love yourself and look into yourself and I'm not going to let the outside influence me. From an enemy standpoint, that's great, because just imagine if you're an enemy and you're controlling people. Do you want all the people to wake up and all of a sudden try and stop you from doing what you're doing and take away all of your power? Of course not. So if you get all of the people sitting there praying on themselves and praying to a God, whatever God they pray in, because they're all different, so how could they all be right? And they're all looking into their inner selves, that person that's the enemy, the evil bad guy, is sitting there saying, wow, this is great. I can keep stealing from you. I can keep murdering people. I can keep making laws. I can keep imprisoning you. I can keep making sure things are unfair. I can make sure you're suppressed. I can make sure your words are never really heard or taken seriously. And you won't do anything about it. You'll just love me. You'll forgive me. You'll wait for your destiny. See how ridiculous that sounds when you put it in that perspective? So understand, like I've said so many times, the path to hell is paved in good intention. So I'm not saying like the people in the truther movement, when they're talking about, oh, love, love, and love. I'm not saying that's bad. In a perfect world, that's great, where everybody can go into them, look deep inside themselves and say, you know, I got to love myself. But you can't sit there and say, I love myself, while you're surrounded by people being murdered, and you don't try and stop them or even acknowledge it. You just, oh, well, I don't want that to ruin my inner child or my inner beauty or my inner sanctum. They're training you into being selfish, because that's what it boils down to. And that's why I have so many people asking me, why do I do this? I do it because I think about more than myself. Because if it helps another person, and I've had many people email me thanking me for what I've done, then it's served a purpose, and it's helped my fellow man. And I don't live in the fear, and you cannot live in fear. But don't be naive either. Don't think, well, I'm listening to all this good advice, and it sounds great from all these different people, and I just got to love myself, and I just got to wait for, you know, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. No, get off your butt and make it happen. That's what they want you to do. They want you to sit there and say, well, Superman will come and save me, or Ron Paul will come and save me, or the next president's going to come and save me. Every single president. I mean, everybody's saying Obama's the worst president in the world. Everybody remember how bad Bush was? Everybody remember all the others that were worse before and before and before? And you think the next person's going to be a savior? Stop falling into the same trap. You're spinning around in circles and wondering why you're not going anywhere. Think. That's all I ask. I'm not telling you to believe me. I'm not telling you to follow me or quote me. I'm just asking you to think. Stop being afraid to do that. And stop being afraid to question the very people that you think might be helping you. Because there's an old saying, if you know anything about the mafia, there's a really big old saying that says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So a lot of people that you think are helping you are actually backstabbing you. And they'll do it with a smile. Look around your back every now and then. Peace.